Into what is our breaking story. A fire raging at an informal settlement near Kwa Mai Mai in Johannesburg. It broke out in the early hours of this morning. Emergency Services Nana Radebe joins us now for a bit of an update. A very good morning to you, Nana, and thank you so much for your time. So what do we know so far?
Good morning to you too. So far, we know that we received a call just after 12 last night. On arrival, we found that there was fire everywhere. We have plus minus 400 shacks that has been affected. And for now, we are still communicating with the community leaders to do a head count of how many people have been displaced. We have one person that has died, and another person has been taken to hospital with minor injuries.
Do we know what was the cause of the death of this one person?
We are just doing dumping down. We are thinking that he was caught in the fire because he's burned. And for now, we'll do investigations after we're done with dumping down. The fire has been extinguished. We're just checking if it will not reignite from any point. And communities are doing head counts. And then from there, we'll know how many families have been displaced and what the cause of fire is.
Okay, so we don't know what the cause of the fire is at the moment?
Not as yet.
Do we know exactly what time this fire started? Because, I mean, we are obviously referring to it in general to say the early hours of this morning. And I understand that you're saying it's now been extinguished. How long exactly has it taken for emergency services to deal with it? When did it start?
We arrived just after 12, and we are thinking as far as the fire was, it might have started just before 12 o'clock, around 11:30, and it took about 4 to 5 hours to fully extinguish the fire.
Nana, of course we believe that this is not the first incident of a breakout of fire in the Kwa Mai Mai informal settlement. With the previous investigation, with the previous case that took place, what was the cause at the time? I mean, and I ask this because I would imagine, you know, comparing the two situations, you would perhaps be able to narrow down what exactly is causing the fires in this informal settlement.
Unfortunately, we can't say that we'll narrow it down because we have different things that would cause fire. The last time it was the lighting source that they were using. Someone was cooking and the fire broke out. And around that area, we also have electricity illegal connections. So that could be many things. We can't just narrow it down. We'd have to do preliminary investigations and see where the fire started, and also do interviews with the community to see where the fire started and what had happened.
You mentioned that there are about 400 shacks in this informal settlement. So that, of course, speaks to overcrowding in the informal settlement, which it's not really a new phenomenon. Overcrowding is really the case of any and all informal settlements. But would you say that this is usually, it adds to the reason why these fires become so large and sometimes so difficult to contain, and why, you know, they result in so many lives being affected?
Definitely, the fire spreading would talk to how the shacks are next to each other. That's how the fire would spread that quickly, and that's why so many shacks would be affected. We have plus 400, but in just one location, you can find at least 20 to 50 shacks, which makes it impossible to move away in case of a fire because those shacks are attached to each other.
I know you've mentioned, you know, the different aspects of what it'll take to ensure that you get down to, you know, some answers to share. But an investigation of this nature, what goes into it? I know you've also mentioned interviews with the community, but what exactly, how does the process begin now that the fire has been extinguished, or at least we hope has been extinguished? What goes into your investigations, and how long does an investigation usually take?
We have the fire safety officer on scene at the moment, which we will start by asking the community where the fire had started. For now, we will have to see if there's any lighting, and as I've said as well, we'd have to hear from the community if there was anyone in that shack. Most of the time, you'd find that the person where the fire started, you won't find them at that scene, but you'd find people that are next to that shack would be able to relate the story. But we'll also check the shack in terms of the lighting. Was there any imbaula in the house? What was their lighting sources? So there's definitely aspects that we look at to determine where the fire has started and what was the cause of the fire.
Just before we let you go, Nana, those who would be displaced, where will they be going?
Disaster management is also on scene, so they would have to find an alternative place, which is not more than a few kilometers from where they are, for those that would want to move. But some of the people you find at times, they had taken their belongings, their furniture out and everything, and they wouldn't want to move. Instead, they would start rebuilding at that same moment when we are done with dumping down.
All right. Nana, thank you so much for joining us and for that update here on the South African Morning.